don't drop the Red Dawn troopers behind us, it'll be recorded.
That's true.
They wouldn't, they wouldn't dare do it. They'd never come out alive when they hit the ground.
Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis, and I have a personal friend and special guest today. Dr. John Waterman is sitting here. Just thought we'd, talk about some stuff because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And this man here is, well, I don't want to give too much on him. But an extremely knowledgeable person. Many of you know him in person. Many of you have heard him on various different shows like the J.B. Wells Caravan After Midnight, different programs that he's often on, giving his expert opinion on everything from health, natural healing, banking, just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And you've been in the game for a while.
Yeah, a little bit.
4 or 5 years, huh?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Spending some time with him today, and we just thought we would, really just sit and talk.
Oh, it's a perfect day for it.
It
too.
is. It's absolutely beautiful out here.
Yeah, it's a good day. I could start off with some good news.
Good. Yeah.
Because I know we've got plenty of the other, which are just information for the war planning, for war planning. Our war planning. Last week, I got an alert sent to me. They needed me to give some information to one of the congressmen in Arkansas that was trying to get the legal tender bill. Gold and silver made his legal tender bill passed in Arkansas. And I said, how long do I have? They said, they're on the floor now. They need you. Send me bullet points. So I sent them the bullet points, and they managed to they walked them to the floor while they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, long story short, it's passed in the House. It passed in the Senate. And from March 30th to, I think it was the 4th. Now, if it's the 3rd, well, you can shoot me if you want. I'll just go to a better place. But, in less than a week, I think God's hand was on it. It was on the governor's desk. And so then on Friday, the day, we're talking about, the Passover weekend coming up. And Friday, I didn't work. I was at home. And continuing not to work this week. Trying not to. Anyway, the lady called me, this Congress lady called me and said that it was really hard work, but it went real fast, and they just rode it like a bull. It was kind of like they made it the full 8 seconds, though. And I was trying to find it as they were talking and asking me questions, and it was moving through the 2 chambers, Senate and House, so quickly that when I was online trying to track the number and find it, I couldn't find it. And then the next thing I saw, I see something here. It says Act 801. And a friend of mine said, well, when it gets to be that means it passed both the Senate and the House, and it's ready for signature. So when she called, that Congress lady that sponsored the bill called Friday, I said, well, I guess that means that there's a high likelihood that Governor Sarah Sanders is going to sign this bill. And she said, oh yeah, she's going to sign it. Now, it's kind of like, I'll take a shooting star like that any day, but work in Missouri has been very solid, very fruitful, and it's going to manifest the same thing. But it didn't come like a shooting star.
Right. Yeah, it moved fast in Arkansas, and
I couldn't believe it.
We're seeing a few other states too starting to realize that they need to
Yes.
start taking care of their own state and getting things in line, because they're watching the U.S. dollar.
Well, I'll just be frank.
go in the hole.
I'll tell you what happened. I told her, I said, let's talk frank. And she said, now, we did have opposition in the Senate of a certain person. And I said, don't give me their name. But I said, were they connected to a certain bank? And I gave the name of the bank. She said, yes. I said, I don't mention the name. That way you can deny saying his name. I said, I was surprised that it didn't get, trampled in the Senate because he was a banker.
Mm-hmm.
He's from a big bank, by the way. I go, okay, so I see God's hand on this.
Yeah.
It's moving very quickly, and what it's giving us is an opportunity to move forward. And I told her, I said, we've got to rescue America. Now, I don't mean all America. I don't want to rescue the woke.
Yeah.
They can, as far as I'm concerned, let's just raise some money, give them one-way tickets to a communist country they want.
Well, they're turning California and most of the West Coast into
Right.
that, parts of the East.
That's
so.
right. So we ended up having that discussion, and she says definitely there is quite a interest from this kind of level. Now, we're not talking national rescue here. We're talking state and maybe even less than that, right? And that they see it, or she did, as the only way to circle the wagons and be successful was to focus on the economic health of the people. And that's why she did it. Now, a lot of people go, but how does gold and silver rescue or make us survive a healthy economy? We can get into that if you want, but I think we've had some things we already talked about. But the bottom line is that it's kind of like when you go to one of these big chain convenience stores and you go get your gas and your soda pop or whatever you get there. The money goes into a local bank overnight. It gets transferred up to the headquarters out of the area. And so all the money that's being earned by all the people in the area getting gas and whatever else they buy, it leaves town. Now, even if it's going to a fractional reserve bank locally, they cannot. And if you make a $100 deposit in a bank, that bank can make a $1,000 loan out because it only has to have 1/10 of that. So what I'm trying to say is, even though it's fiat money and it's Federal Reserve notes, when that money leaves your community, there's no loans to be made to help people grow. I'm of the mindset, and you're just going to call me old-fashioned if you want. I think loans are okay, but I don't like interest. I don't think we ought to be doing interest. I mean, that's how I am.
Right.
And so, anyway, I've been at it many years. I'm, of course, on the board of UPMA. I am the chair of the Preparedness and Emergency Committee, and I'm very busy right now.
I bet.
So I'm in my, and by the way, I want to tell you what UPMA is. Is this going to be okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. UPMA is the only bank outside the Federal Reserve in over 100 years. Because of that, when you open up an account, we don't need, or UPMA, and I say we, by the way, nobody is an investor in UPMA. Travis, if you have an account, I have an account, we're equal. We equally own as members UPMA. We are then appointing our membership into voluntary roles. I don't get, I'll back up and say I don't get paid. After starting my fourth 3-year term, the last board meeting, they gave us a complimentary, said thank you kind of benefit, and they gave us a little coin worth $40. Okay, and for our last board meeting, I've never been paid.
All that work it paid off.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just a token of expression of thank you, but my job is to represent me, you, and anybody else that wants to be a part of this. Now, why would you put that in there instead of under your mattress? That's why what we're always asked.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying there was no Social Security number needed when you make an account there. And it's because we're no more federal than Federal Express is federal. And by that, part of the government. We are a constitutional bank, but the members that first began this said, look, we can buy gold, we can buy silver, we can buy bulk, we can buy it in coin of the realm, which is minted from the Treasury if we want, which has some major benefits over bullion. So, but you might want both. If you have a lot of money, you might want both. And by that, I mean millions, you know. And what happens is, though, we had the idea of starting something that allows us to have the ability to do transactions with the world. I mean, you know, you couldn't commonly walk in and just plop a silver coin or gold coin down anywhere. Right. You know, you can't buy your groceries, you can't get your gas, you can't get your milk. You know, so what do we do? Well, what we did was we set it up, and I'm not going to give all the secrets on air here, but we have the ability to take your money, and of course we buy the gold and silver and put it on whatever you want on the shelf in a vault that is the most secure, and I'm not kidding, because the inspector that's had over 20 years of inspecting banks said we are the most secure bank in the entire U.S. We have 21 steps of security between the front door and the vault.
My goodness.
And our tellers and our staff, you don't want to come in. There's something on their hip. And, you know, don't cause trouble, okay? Anyway, what we've got is this money sitting there on the shelf. So how do you spend it? That's the key, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we made it possible through a company that is not a bank, that is a ATM service company, and we signed a contract as members providing this service so that we could grab an ATM card. And now it's not automatically attached to that money you've got in the vault.
Right.
There are several different ways that you can designate what you want moved from that shelf and onto the card.
Right.
Okay. And you can have it manual, or you can have it topped off monthly so that it's ready to go for you. Okay. Right. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of little features. And now you can go buy your groceries, get your gas. So if you come to see me, of course, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I now will do business with anybody. And if they want to pay in gold and silver, let's do it. It doesn't hamper me. Now, if somebody says, but I make widgets and I have to have raw materials. Well, that's fine too, because you can have the people pay you in gold and silver, and you can take your ATM card and go buy your raw materials. Now, the ATM card has a limit. I know out there many of you are concerned about that, but I think we've accommodated it because the limit on the card is $20,000 a day. So, you know,
it's a little higher than my daily spending budget.
So we're trying to accommodate the widget builders that have to buy materials and move stuff around. Okay. Now, that's kind of just the start, though. That there are many other wonderful benefits that come from it, and people go, well, can I move my retirement? Well, if they let you have your retirement, we can help you get it taken care of. If you know, if it's a pension, and I'll say the deep state has control of it, they may not let you have it.
Right.
So it depends on what kind of pot you have, whether you're going to be able to move it. But we have moved enormous amounts of retirements into whatever they wanted.
Yeah, I had someone ask me the other day that, well, it was actually a couple of different questions, a few different people. One asked that they were selling their house. Could they take that money and roll it into UPMA and have it sitting there?
You betcha.
Absolutely. someone else messaged me and said that they were, I guess one of their parents was passing away, and so there was some inheritance.
Yes.
And asking if that could be rolled into
Yes.
UPMA, and those are the kind of things
Sure.
that can be done. You know, if you just have a couple of $100 US in that account, that's fine.
Yeah,
But
sure.
you can have tens, hundreds of thousands, millions.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. We have, one time I did walk into a private bank that are for the wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't put signs out, and they're usually in some downtown location. And when you walk in, I was trying to get to the American Institute of Architects, and I turned into the wrong door.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in, I go, this doesn't look right. And they had all these what looked like private little offices, and cushions out there, leather chairs, and ice water and coffee, and oh man, this is nice, Anyway, it was a private bank. and they kind of have they do business so that nobody know. I mean, when they go in to do business, you make an appointment, they pull the curtain so nobody can see that's coming in too. They don't want anybody knowing what they're doing.
Right.
So, I mean, it's talking about private. We're the same way. We have extreme amounts of privacy. Not even I can be revealed anything. I'm there to navigate and make sure everything is backed up, and that we have redundancies, the preparation and emergency.
Right.
So we have two areas. One is the physical. So we have, backup power, more than one type, backup systems. We have EMP protection. The building was built earthquake proof. And the other kind of backup system is if we have a collapse and there's no money, how are your employees going to work for us when you can't pay them because there's no money? Well, guess what? We've already made sure that they're willing to take gold in payment for their work,
Mm-hmm.
and put their just move their payment over into their account by the amount that they're due in gold.
Right.
And they were all willing. Now you might say, well, gosh, what's going to happen with CBDC? I can't predict the future.
Right.
But I can tell you what we're hoping that we'll be able to navigate. I can tell you what I'm trying to make happen. And that would be continuity of service to members through the use of our trust department. Yes, we have a we have a trust department. And we are hoping that we can then navigate when that comes out, because it's coming, to take your gold and silver, and then when you got your ATM card, it just converts it over to whatever they're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
If they're saying it's pink polka dots and it's made out of plastic, then we're going to convert it over to that for them.
Right.
Whatever. But guess what? You don't have to be playing with that money. You can still have your gold and silver. In the meantime, if it gets more Thunderdome than that, it can always be talked about.
Sure.
If that all collapses, well, then we'll just give each other gold and silver.
Right. And there's ways to, because I've had people ask, well, if communications go down, the cell network goes down, how do I get a hold of
Oh, well, we have redundancy there too. So you're going to be soon seeing some codes in your back office that you download and save.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the steps of communication that we've got planned. Number one is, we've got phone and internet. If those two go down, then we are planning on the ability to use satellite phones, not the other phone I was talking about were cell towers and stuff. So we have already our satellite phones are ready to go. And we're now not talking about having conversations, right? Because there are going to be a lot of people wanting some help.
Right.
So is it withdrawal? How much? Who are you? And you'll have to have a code. That one-time pad code you will have to have, because once you use that code up, the next one's the only one that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
So comms is in the works, and we have already discussed and are trying to acquire pockets of ham radio operators to kind of be our telegraph for us. There's been active conversations about physical movement of gold and silver for members, and what that's going to take. And the discussions have been with former Special Forces people to make it happen.
Right.
I mean, we're serious about this. Now, let me give you some good news about what is happening. In Northwest Arkansas, over there in Beestville, you know where we're talking.
Right.
Talking to the Congress lady, we're actively pursuing the first gold and silver legal tender vault in Northwest Arkansas real soon. Actually, the building we already got it. We actually have the vault now. We're just working out details. That's in Arkansas. Guess
amazing.
Guess what's going to happen in Missouri?
Hopefully similar things.
The same. I don't want to spoil it, but but discussions are hot and heavy. Okay, they're hot and heavy. So and a lot of people go, well, how do I know you got the money? Well, that's the good part. Members of UPMA can go there anytime they want, make an appointment, go to the vault, see their stuff, pick it up if they want. And they're allowed to see the books, the financial records. They're open to the members.
Right.
This is not the Federal Reserve. We're not keeping secrets. This is for us.
Right. Yeah, I've seen talk recently online about all these countries, buying up gold.
Yeah.
Everyone's just there. It's a gold buying frenzy.
Oh, it got, this last few days, right?
Oh, my goodness. And of course, the conversation comes up about the United States. Well, how much gold is the United States? Well, I think on the books it's something like 8,000 tons or something. Who's the last person that's actually seen that?
Where's it at?
I think what was it? Somewhere in the 60s or something was the last time someone cracked open Fort Knox.
Yeah.
And even then, they didn't
See
audit it. Everything.
No.
They just supposedly a few people opened the doors, and that was it. I mean,
if this is our country, we want to see our wealth.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we make happen. That's what we're about.
Right.
This is not about some corporation. Now, we do make contracts with businesses to provide services, answer the phones, do our bidding. We're the dog, they're the tail. And if we don't like what they're doing, we can hop horses.
Right.
So anyway, that's some of the good news, because it's
that sounds good.
It's on the way.
A lot of people are getting really, really nervous.
I don't blame them. Well, what was silver? Last I checked before I came out here, it's been a couple of days. Man, I was up one night and somebody sent me an alert. Silver went, when the foreign market opened, it went straight up to like, I don't know, 25 something. I'm going. It just went.
The last I saw it was just under 26.
So it's off and gone. I mean, it's.
And gold is almost at its highest ever.
Yeah.
It's
well,
in the 230s,
it's going to happen.
2030s, 2040s.
This is the collapse.
Yeah.
This is the collapse. We have now. I knew many months ago, and I mentioned this to you, that it was coming in May. Then I thought it had gotten postponed to June. But I got bad news for you. There is rumors it's been back into May, but in a different way. Here's where the divides are going to occur. If you're in a state that likes drag queen hour, don't be expecting gold and silver legal tender. You're going to be on the CBDC. If you happen to live in the 22 states that are rapidly passing their bills, which almost... Well, if I tell you the stage, you're going to be thinking it's a civil war again. I mean, really, but they're it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But we do have an opportunity, and I think we've got to quit making it possible for when people invest in businesses, they can bet on them losing money in order to make money. In other words, I think I'm going to bet on Boeing stock going down and have this short, because I know the World Trade Center is going to get bombed with a Boeing jet, and there are, something's going to happen in there, blah blah blah. Well, that's not what stocks really are for. Stocks is for you and me to invest what extra money we have, into an operation that is supposed to be producing profit, you and I are supposed to participate in that for some kind of hopeful gain.
Right.
Now, we may not even charge interest even, but we just put our money. Now, if they go broke, we lose.
Right.
That's what we shouldn't be letting somebody say, well, when you go broke, I want to make, there should be somebody making money. That should be gone.
Right.
That's that thing in the market and the commodity. No, well, no, it's not even, it is not ethical stuff. We should be promoting growth and helping each other grow. And if we all make an investment and it goes broke, it's either because we got stolen from on purpose, or we weren't prudent in figuring out what we did with our money was good or bad, you know.
Right. I think that's how a lot of these congressmen and senators, you look at, they go into office with a little bit of nest egg and they come out worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, how do they do that? Because they know that, well, we'll, you know, short this stock and, you know, make this money, and they're worth, you know, absurd amounts of money. And in the end, it's all, and you know this, and many of you know this, it's been destroying our nation, our economy, our currency for decades now. And only because of the fact that we can sell our debt around the world and print more money, have we been able to, I believe, kind of hold off the collapse.
You were right the other day.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah, you were right the other day when you said, you know, it's always something to do with our money. When we have an economic problem, which they manufacture, by the way, they want to go to war. Now, a lot of people translate that into, well, that means that we ramp up production of things we blow up, like bombs and bullets, and that makes money. That doesn't make money. I mean, if I build a building and I blow it up, am I supposed to get paid for that? I mean, is that production? No. What they're missing, and I think I'd like to clear up, is what they're doing in that foreign country is making sure they don't leave the Federal Reserve central bank money system, because if they do, then they lose money.
Right.
So they're going in there to occupy it, to make them stay on the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, make them use our money, make them buy our debt.
Yes. Now, it is not, let's do one, if there was one thing out of this whole conversation that I would encourage everybody to do that they can do freely and quickly right now, is to quit confusing and using the word dollar when we mean Federal Reserve note. Because those people aren't being put on the U.S. dollar. And it's not the dollar that's collapsing. It's the Federal Reserve note that's collapsing. We need to learn that the dollar was defined in our Constitution as 1 ounce of silver. What's it worth? Well, it's worth about $45. No, that's what it's worth in trading for Federal Reserve notes. What it's worth is a good meal, maybe a drink at the Cowboy Cafe, and a night with my horse in the corral or something. You know, it has value that we are going to be learning how to translate, instead of saying, well, I want to sell this in silver, so I think it's worth $10, so in silver that's this much, or it's worth $1,000, and how much is that in silver? We're going to do that for a while. We're all going to have to go through that.
Yes. Yeah,
but
because it's been so long since we've used it. Yes,
there's no fault in having to do that. So we have tools at UPMA for you to do that. So if you come to me to see me and have a fee, and you want to pay me, you can select whatever amount in silver or gold or both that you want, and you can make it in U.S. dollars so you can understand how much that means. Okay, and let the market decide what that's equal to that day. And we're going to do that for a while.
Sure. I mean, it's
going to happen.
It's, you know, saying that, and I don't know the exact what silver's trading at right now, but let's just say it's 25.
Keep up now.
Let's just say it's 25 Federal Reserve notes. To say that silver is worth $25 is no different to say, well, how much is silver worth in Japanese yen?
Right.
How much is silver worth in Russian ruble? How
Right.
much is
One.
silver worth in some African, I don't know, you know,
Yeah,
or,
right.
or Venezuelan currency or
right.
something? It's different with each one, and the reason is because the value of that currency is different.
Sure.
And that's what Federal Reserve notes. Their value fluctuates. The silver's value doesn't fluctuate.
No, a silver coin gets you so close to what you could get for it 2,000 years ago.
Mhm.
It's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, you can, you know, and gold's the same way. You can go back 2,000 years ago, and an ounce of gold
Yep.
would buy you a good suit, good cloak, good
Yep.
sandals, good belt. You know, 100 years ago, an ounce of gold.
It may
you
not
know,
be a Trump suit today, but
Maybe
it
not,
would be
maybe
pretty
not.
good. It'd still be, I mean, you know, what is it, 2,000? It's over two. Let's say it's
yeah,
2,000.
Just say it's 2,000.
That's a nice suit.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have a good tie and everything.
Yeah, yeah, you could get a full, you know, a men's attire,
Right.
good, decent men's attire, and it was the same way, you know, 150 years ago.
Right.
You know, a gold dollar piece and gold piece would buy you what you need. So that you can track it, that gold and silver aren't
Yeah.
really losing or gaining value.
That's right.
It's the currency that's being used, and
Right.
for us, it's Federal Reserve notes. For another country, it's their currency.
I got a game for you that you can have them do. You know, I already said, hey, let's quit saying U.S. dollars when we're meaning Federal Reserve note.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of get used to Fed notes. Just say Fed notes instead of dollar. Fed notes instead of dollar. And then say silver dollar, so we know we're not talking gold. But let me give you something fun to do. Pretend like you're the mayor of a town, and it's the 1800s, and you've got to hire a new marshal.
Mm-hmm.
How many silver coins are you going to pay him, and how often? Just kind of figure it out. You know, what do you think that one silver coin will get you? And if you were going to become that marshal, and you were going to be paid in silver, how many silver coins would you need to live? So you'll start going back to U.S. dollars, which isn't U.S. dollars, right? It's
Right.
Federal Reserve. You're going to go back to Federal Reserve notes, and you're going to say, well, I have to have this much, and then you're going to convert it, and then you're going to see how many silver dollars that equates to. Pretty soon, you're going to understand what, without that Federal Reserve in the middle, what a silver dollar is going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon, we're going to have communities where we're walking up to farmers market and laying down silver dollars, maybe buying land with gold,
Right,
and maybe making change with goldbacks.
right.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
You know why? Because then we're going to get something done.
Yeah.
Then we can start, you know, auctioning off pies in the barn. You know,
Mm-hmm.
do a little drawing. Who bid the most on this one? That was kind of scary when you were a kid, though. When you remember the gals would make the pies,
Right.
and they'd all be out there, and you'd bid on the one you want. Well, when you get that pie, you have to dance on the square dance floor that night with that girl. And so it was kind of, it could be problematic if it was a
Sure,
really,
sure.
you know, especially if you like that pie.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we've been doing here in our local community, is encouraging people,
Yeah.
encouraging people to do any type of transaction between themselves and gold and silver. And of course, you know, it doesn't always happen, but it can, and it has happened. And I've noticed just what you're saying. For instance, someone that comes to our monthly meetings, I can mention their name. They're good. Sanctified Supply Company. They make
Oh, yeah, yeah.
T-shirts and hats and stuff. And so I bought a T-shirt off of them a few months back, and I asked if they would take silver, and of course he said absolutely. And so I had some silver dimes, pre-64 dimes. He's like, "Well, how much is that? How much would that be?" And I said, "I don't know." So we just kind of, you know, took, well, it's this much money in Federal Reserve notes, and I know that this is about what a face dollar of these dimes are worth. So we, you know, kind of worked it out. I don't remember
right.
exactly was, but you know, for a while, because I've had people ask, how is this going to work? It's going to be a little shaky for a while.
And
you know.
guess what? If you've got the chicken eggs and you're taking silver and you accept it, then that's what it's worth to you.
Right, right.
Even if, okay, now in circulated silver, it's worn out. It can lose as much as 10% of its weight.
Mhm.
But if you're willing to take it, that's your business.
Right, right. It's
Hey.
just like just the other day, a neighbor that lives not even a mile from us stopped by, and he has honeybees,
Yeah.
and we have sheep,
That's nice.
and he uses sheep wool in his beehives.
Oh, really?
And he asked if if we could work out some kind of trade with some of the sheep wool. Now, some of the sheep wool, because we're getting ready to shear, it's already been, someone else is going to get some of it, but we'll have left over, and we don't really use it yet. We want to eventually get to where we're using it, but we're not right now.
Well, you're using it in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked, and he's getting part of our sheep wool to go into his beehives, and then we'll get some of his honey. So there's a trade. And he asked me, it was interesting and he's not part of our community that where we meet at. He's just a neighbor, and he said, "Do you want to sell it, or would you rather trade?" And I said, "I would always rather trade.
Sure.
Let's do
Why
it that
not?
way."
Yes.
And so there's of course there's no silver and gold being transacted, but silver and gold is just a representation of the labor, and because it is real money.
Yes.
It is real money. The real value is in the labor that we put in to make things. The real value in gold and silver,
dig it out of the ground.
Yeah, is the labor we put in the gold and silver. It's the labor we put in to build a house, or to cut a tree down and turn it into lumber.
Sure.
That's where the real value of anything is. And so once we start getting back to thinking along that track, I think things will get better. And there is going to be a transition period. It's not just the money, everything else could be chaotic, and that's why I mean, it already is chaotic, but it's probably going to get worse. And that's why I encourage people to try to find others like themselves and have that community, because if you're out there on your own, I'm not saying that you won't survive. I mean, you certainly could survive completely on your own, but I would think that the ease of doing all of this, whether it's security or producing food or just the transactions amongst sharing and trading, it's going to be so much better and easier having others around us. And I think if you look at just what we've seen our government do over the last few years, I think they show signs that they absolutely hate the idea of us doing things without them, having a community without them, conducting a transaction without them. They want to be at the center of all of it.
Right.
They don't want you buying a cup of lemonade from a little girl without them knowing it. It's just it's horrible to think of that. And
or if I trade my weed eater for shearing hedge clippers,
right,
they want to know that
they want to know everything about it. And to me, what was it? Someone said something the other day. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the more that government shows that it dislikes something or that it wants to control something, should be more of a sign that maybe that's what we should be doing.
No, that's right.
So if they're showing
rub
more
it in
and
their
more,
face.
right? Because I mean, you look over the last 3 years, all these COVID lockdown stuff. All it did was try to separate families, keep people from having face-to-face contact with each other. It was absurd. I mean, I know you saw it. I saw pictures of, a mother giving birth to her child, and the doctor holding the baby up to hand to her, and there was a plastic barrier between the mother and the child. I saw pictures of that. The grandparents hugging the little kids through plastic. That's as absurd as that was. That's really what they wanted. They want us to not have that connection. There is something powerful in that of us, of us sitting right here.
And we sitting here, okay, and a lot of people go, but I've got to pay taxes. Well, guess what? Move to Missouri.
Yeah.
Move to Arkansas. Move to one of those 22 states. And here's why. So Travis is going to be able to take his gold or silver and go down to the courthouse and pay his taxes.
Yep.
And get his tag on his car paid for.
And not pay capital gains taxes.
And there's no capital gain
on the gold and silver.
No, if it's the coin of the realm, it's minted. Yeah. And there's wonderful new stuff coming out. What if you all of a sudden saw a coin that said Missouri dollar and it was real silver? Don't be surprised what might be in the works, okay? Because wonderful things. I'm telling you, if you just be discerning and navigate yourself to the right position, this could be a time of the dividing.
Yeah.
And by that, you know what I mean, right?
Yes, I do. One of the things I've talked about on this channel since I began was something I refer to as cultural secession, which is where we recognize this growing wickedness and evilness and corruptness in our society, and that we choose to separate ourselves from it. And we're seeing that, and I think it's growing beyond just cultural secession. We're seeing it in businesses, we're seeing in relationships, we're seeing governments, state governments and stuff, some of them start to wake up and like, you know what, we need to do things to kind of separate ourselves. I've said it before, I've heard it on very, very good word, that in our state of Missouri, and I'm sure it's the same way in a few other states, that there are elected officials behind closed doors having conversations in very secret, private ways of what does Missouri need to be doing to protect ourselves so that when the dissolution of states happens, what can
continuity of government at the state level.
Yes, that's the conversations that's being had. Like what bills can we pass? What things can we do to set ourselves up so that when the government falls apart,
there are a lot of individuals involved in helping them understand what they can do, that want it to be that way, you know.
Right.
And they're just me and you.
Right.
Now, a lot of people have asked, well, how many people do you have? I can tell you approximately. We have last count that was last year. Now it's probably not even close. But UPMA had you and me counted as I'm one, you're two, and so forth. There was over 40,000 of us, and we have a vault that everybody says, well, how much have you got in the vault? I can't tell you how much is in the vault, but there is. It was about half full, but now it's rapidly getting filled. But when it was empty for a while there, we had enough room for $3.4 billion. We're not talking, national debt stuff here, but we're talking enough for people to be able to navigate between themselves. And remember, once I've done something and I give you that silver dollar, we don't have to, it doesn't go poof. That silver dollar comes back to somebody else, and so it stays out there moving around. Okay, but the Federal Reserve note, that's a whole other story.
Right. Yeah.
Have we covered this one a good? What do you think?
I think so.
What do you think?
I think so. We can always maybe follow up next week or something.
Sure.
We'll see how this video does. What questions people propose, and then we can always follow up video.
Next time we could talk about the galactic plane, the weather.
Absolutely.
That'd get them interested.
Yep. All right. Well, folks, lot to talk about, lot to think about. So this was one of our impromptu videos.
Yeah,
just give us some questions, because I know that there's a lot of questions about UPMA, and then we'll work on putting together another video to answer some of those questions. Because as the world turns, and when I say turn, it's mostly like going down a toilet turning. Things like UPMA are going to become more of something that you folks are going to be interested in, and I certainly would suggest, if you're going to do it sooner than later, because your U.S. dollars in gold is going up, and the Federal Reserve currency is going down. So the sooner you can make the move, the better you can have control of your wealth.
We got to get back to work. I just heard the rooster crow.
I know. I think the ladies are wanting us to eat, and then we're going to get back to work. Folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.